Coach, I made a mistake last week. I told you I waited like 15 minutes to ask about Leonard Williams, and I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to ask you about the craziness to start. I'm not going to ask you about anything else other than the big cat to start this thing.
Great.
How good was he yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you could have topped the week before, but I think he might have done it. So can he do 3 in a row? I don't know. We'll find out.
What has allowed him, because he's been a good player for a long time, obviously. This is not like brand new to him.
Yeah.
But we've seen him here for over a year, and he's been a good to very good player. He hasn't put up the kind of numbers and dominance that he has the last 2 weeks. What has allowed him to sort of reemerge as that kind of a player?
Wow. Well, I think, I think it's kind of a team effort too. I mean, between John and the rest of his crew and our coaching staff watching Leo's tape and really putting a priority on saying, hey, this guy's really good, and we got a vision for him and where he can create or, where he can go. And then, Leo's, buy-in the off season into what we were doing and just kind of, it takes a while to get used to like how we're calling stuff and what we're expecting to do and how to do all the things, and you got other stuff going on. It's not easy to be here all the time. So there's a lot of stuff going into it, but the commitment to kind of the role and the vision for him. And then I think what we're seeing now is just kind of when preparation meets opportunity. And I think he's been playing great throughout the course of the season. So like I said last week, it's great to see that he's got kind of some numbers and some production to go behind some of all that hustle, So I think that's kind of what went into it.
When you crank that treadmill up and you get that morning workout in, as you do every morning at 5:30, and you crank that thing up to
Give me too much credit.
You crank that thing up to 17.5. Can you stay on there for 80 yards?
No shot. Hamstring's gone.
Mike, watching him, and it was great. He talked about it after the game, the fundamentals, right, of making contact with the guard and then dropping back, getting the hands up, ball right. But when he caught that and started to run, how many human beings on earth of that size can move the way that he moved?
Not many. I mean, just like I said, there's just not a lot of these guys walking the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And glad he's on our team. I always made a joke, like, if maybe this is inappropriate, but like, can you imagine him like in like 1,000 years ago, just like coming up to some foreign land or whatever, and he's got like a spear in his hand, and you're just like, man, we're screwed. Like, well, you're exploring and like there's Leo. You're like, oh my God.
Well, what about just the 1970s? Like, what if he came on the field for the steel curtain? Like, excuse me? Hey, me and Joe Green, why don't you jog off the field?
I think the better way to say is just like any era. It fits in any era of football.
A little football. Oh, I'm sorry, Salky.
No, go ahead.
Just a little football 101 here. I was saying I got a few of these football 101s to throw your way today. That pick six, that's now back-to-back weeks. That is so hard to do, to get one in a season in the NFL. You do it now back-to-back weeks. From the start of your first OTA practice with the guys on the field, through walkthroughs, through training camp, how many times full speed like that, like the last 2 weeks with the cavalry out front, like full speed pick six, how many times do you think you've stacked a rep like that?
Well, it didn't start originally. We you actually practice these things, which is kind of crazy. Like, you practice the rules. We call it plus mode. And Chris Partridge, again, he deserves a lot of credit on this. I mean, originally we weren't very good at it. Because if we got an interception, guys would like celebrate, and we wouldn't really necessarily finish the play. But now, like, you can see, once we turn the ball over, guys kind of click into that mode, and there's blocks that you have to make. You got to build an escort and angles, and there's some details behind it, which is kind of cool.
So those guys practice a little blocking to be prepared for those moments?
Yeah, of course.
How much time can you spend on it? Because it feels like, obviously they're going to spend most of their time practicing defense.
Yeah, you're not like, just when it comes up, there's coaching points that will hit them throughout the week and move on.
Most of those guys have played offense at some point in their career, right? Or like
high
school.
Yeah, it's not like a totally foreign concept to them. You're just showing them like what needs to happen in order for us to get going.
Going back to like Jason Meyer's punting days, what information were you able to gather in that moment of, okay, can this guy go out there and punt if I need him to?
Well, Jay said he could, and then but then if it's a function of like how far we're going to be able to get this thing. That was kind of a crazy series of events. But at that point, I was just like, okay, at a certain point, if it was a certain, like, there's no chart to say like, okay, your punter's down. At what distance are you going to punt it? versus when you're going to go for it. So, we had the numbers of, what was like kind of a net positive for us to go for it. And frankly, like it was kind of, we expanded it a few yards. So it wasn't like a complete reach. And I just felt like, you're not guaranteed like a 40-yard punt. So you might net like 20 yards or something or 30 yards. And at that point, you're just like, shoot, we'll just go for it.
Brock brought up a good point. How often has he caught a snap?
Well, they practice. Yeah, they practice. I mean, these are stuff like these guys, the specialists, they have like a stuff that they practice every week. So they're kind of doing all the things. It's not like every week you're getting like 1,000 reps, but these are things that they rep kind of off and on throughout the year. They know they got to hit certain benchmarks, so they're ready for when stuff hits the fan.
But this was the first time these headsets are buzzing like this, right? I mean, this is kind of the fun part of being the first-time head coach and all these unique circumstances. And you referenced after the game and said, yeah, the headsets were kind of busy. They were kind of buzzing there. Like if we could have been plugged into that, what does through – because it wasn't just one decision, right? It came up kind of multiple times. And Sammy Ramsden's over there trying to get Dickson's back right. And there's funny. All sorts of moving pieces.
This is when DK went down.
Right.
So, like, I'm thinking about DK in the tent. I'm like, man, I hope he's okay, And so I'm thinking about that, and then all of a sudden I hear that Dick goes down, and I go over there, and he's, like, on the ground, like, writhing in pain. I'm like, what happened to this guy? And so at that point, obviously, you got to go through what happens from that point. And I'm thinking, like, it's not it might be a function of time. Like, maybe we get him back at a certain point. So asking the guys to kind of keep me up to speed, like, up to the minute, because at any given point we could have to need a punt or even holding the ball on a kick was a question mark. So
the beginning of this game was bizarre, right? Obviously all the special team snafus and just it had a strange, I think you called it a crazy game after the yesterday. Is there anything that you can do as the coach to try to settle those things down in the moment?
I mean, yeah. I mean, like kind of all the things we always talk about, like staying composed, going to the next play, realizing that like the game plans are still solid. Let's stick to it. We got a lot of time to play. I mean, we were pretty close to being down 28-7, which you might have to reconsider some things you're doing at that point. But fortunately, we were able to make the pick six to kind of get it back to I think a score or whatever. I think they took the next kick as a touchdown, but yeah, just try to keep your composure. I mean, you're thinking it's the same thing. You're just always thinking about what you got to do to go win the game at that point. So wasn't necessarily excited about what was going on, but they don't care how I feel in that moment.
How often are you balancing, just listening to you, Mike, how often are you balancing like that real-time play call you got to make then with the step ahead? Like that balance between...
Yeah, it's constant. And then our defensive coaches, they're doing a great job of like we kind of debrief right after, and then they kind of go back, and then they have some ideas once I'm able to kind of click back to defense. And I don't know, you're kind of like processing stuff in the back of your mind when we're not up on defense. And then we, quickly compare notes about how we want to, attack the next series and kind of what's next. So those guys are doing a great job. And then, Brian Ayers is just does an awesome job talking to me about all the situations, and we talk through those things with Les and Jay. So right now, I mean, I'm pleased with our process.
We've talked about a bunch of the guys on this defense with you over the last few weeks, Leonard Williams and Spoon and all these guys who kind of come in and made a difference. Is there someone that's maybe flying under the radar that you think could use a little extra recognition based on how they've played the last few weeks?
Man, I thought, obviously Julian, they talked to me at the end of the game. I thought he played a phenomenal game. I think right now, the defensive front is playing well together. We're managing reps well, like handling situations. Right? I mean, Leo's got the hot hand, so, I mean, we're trying to get him in good situations consistently, or maybe if they're protecting in a certain way against Leo, setting somebody else up for success. But, man, I just think, like, kind of the vision, the buy-in, the togetherness of how we want to play, the composure. I mean, with all the things that are happening, that's what it takes to play really good football. I mean, I think the guys feel, hey, this is how you have to prepare throughout the week. This is how the games go. This is how we want to handle these kind of dark moments in games and how we want to come to life. So, everybody deserves a shout out, I guess.
In that defensive lineup, may get an addition with Uchenna. How did his week go last week? And see somebody that we could see here down the stretch.
Yeah, we're optimistic about him moving forward this week. I don't want to put like a timetable on it right now, but I'd say I call it an outside chance at seeing him this week. But a lot has to happen between now and then for us to get him the green light. So, but it's sooner than later. So we're excited about that.
Football 101, another football 101 question. Always so fascinated about these calls and these moments. So you get the Jets to 4th and 15 in that situation, right? And I think there's kind of two schools of thought. Do you rush 3 or 4, kind of keep everybody there and have 7 in coverage? Or do you kind of do what you did to some degree and show the 0 and show a pretty different look and bring people from different ways, still protect yourself on the back end? Like, what goes into, how quickly do you know that that's the call that you want to get to in that moment?
Well, people I'll get credit. We get joked with guys on the defensive staff that like I'm kind of a robot, and then I need to be a little more flexible and calling the game. So
what? Really?
I don't know how they could ever have come to that conclusion. So I mean, we do game plan 4th down, and frankly, I do it on Sunday morning at the stadium. That's
really?
Just every waking second. But yeah, and so we finalize it on the stadium. Let me put it that way. Like we have ideas, but pen to paper, so to speak. So we knew like we had some options in that situation, and without getting into like why, just to kind of save us on form. But like, I mean, 0 is always an option in those situations. You could fake it. You could play coverage and decide to double guys and things like. I mean, those things are on the table on how you want to play it, but. That one I wasn't as much of a computer, so take that, AD.
On the other side of the ball, you had a new right guard yesterday for the first time. What did he do over the course of the last week or the course of the last few months to earn that start yesterday?
Yeah, I've spoke to this on our press conferences and stuff, but there's a reason on why we practice and train and do all the things that we do, and one of the biggest reasons is to compete, and we want guys to grow and develop. And Sataoa is a guy that we were really excited about when we drafted. And from when he showed up, this guy has just worked and just done everything we've asked him to do. And you're going to make mistakes, but you got to grow from them. And you can just see that there's the athleticism, the power, the toughness. So there's a lot of like great characteristics there, along with the rest of the guys. I mean, even Christian's doing the same thing. It's just Sataoa was just playing at a little bit higher level, and so that's what was a catalyst for the decision, and that's what showed up in the game. I mean, I think he started maybe a little slow, to getting his feet wet, getting used to it. But man, did he pick it up, and you could feel him out there. So he deserves a lot of credit.
What do you feel with the run game?
Well, I think you're looking at two different things. I think you're looking at like normal down run game, which I feel like we're making a lot of strides, and then you're looking at like these critical short yardage and low red zone plays that we're falling short right now. So on the one hand, I think we're taking a step on our just normal kind of run game. There's some really cool plays that I think the guys are going to be excited about, what it looks like on tape. And there's some details we're obviously going to always be chasing on that front. I think our process has improved on that front, and that's where we're getting better results. And so we got to look at the thing, kind of the whole, vertical chain of from like how we conceive plays, all the way down to installing it, and then getting it called, and how we're calling it, how we're executing it, all the little details that go into it. We got those things around the table. I mean, these are like the process is the same no matter what we're gonna we could be like undefeated from now until eternity, and I'll sit in here and be like, we're still chasing these things. There's still going to be stuff that we want to get better at and improve. And so the mentality and the process is always like, there's always going to be stuff that we're going to have to go attack head on. And just right now, it's obviously pronounced with where we have to improve. And the guys know that, like, if you want to win in December and this type of football, you got to be able to convert short yardage and down on the red zone. I mean, that's football 101, Brock,
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that's
black
the
zone
mentality.
though. The black zone was new to me. I don't think that was a term I was terribly. The low red zone. When did it become the black zone?
That was a term that I used in Baltimore and just felt like it was applicable and made sense. It depends on how you see it. Just and it adjusts from week to week on what we declare what it is, and not necessarily a certain yard line, but call it low red.
So the computer spit that one out.
Computer told me to name it something different.
When you get into those short yardage spots and you're trying to run for a first down, is that in that moment about technique? Is it about creativity and play calling? Is it just raw strength and ability to beat the guy in front of you? What is the key?
It's everything, right? I mean, and that's why, I think we have to look at everything. You can't just say, hey, it's just one guy knocking up. Same thing like run defense around the year on defense. It wasn't just like, hey, this guy hasn't played this run yet. It's just not, it doesn't work like that. And so, it's all the above.
I'm curious from your perspective. I think there's a number of different reasons, but I'll be curious where you kind of lean into this. Because throwing a football from the high school, I watch these high school kids do it now, Mike. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so much better than ever used to be. College guys can throw at the NFL. I mean, some of the throws Gino made yesterday, the over route to Jackson, the windows that these guys throw into the back. So like throwing it, at every level has become pretty efficient. Running the ball at the high school level, running at the college level, you can do it. Why is it so hard to consistently run the ball at the NFL level?
I mean, there's some great players on the other side of the ball too.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'd say like the talent discrepancy. I mean, it's everybody's really good, and everybody has good schemes and good players, and that's why you're not going to just rattle off 10-yard plus gains all day. Like coaches make adjustments and. There's movements. There's just so many things that kind of go into it that has to make it work, and that's why you do need like a complementary menu. You can't just run the same plays all the time. You need plays off of plays. You got to try to keep defenses off balance. You need to be able to, hey, everybody that come into the run, let's try to throw it over their head. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do to kind of alleviate pressure and put them a little bit behind the eight ball, so to speak, But that's not. I mean, it's easier said than done, And those are things everybody's trying to do. Those types of things. I think, the RPO game is good in the NFL, but there's just less space because the hashes aren't as pronounced, So it's less space from to the field, and the players are faster. So it's like, it's less of a space and numbers game in the RPO game. Now, if you're like we had one yesterday, we weren't covered down, and they popped it to Adams, and it was a good play for them. And so like there is. Like if you don't execute it the right way, and there's an imbalance on how you're, your box count and who's in the fit and who's out of the fit, then there's some opportunities there. That's why it still exists in our league, in my opinion, is that you can still have advantage throws that you want to take.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of what's going on.
A couple weeks ago, you got your safety back, Rayshon Jenkins, and Kobe stayed in there. He's still playing what appears to be a pretty high level. How have you been able to use having multiple options at safety and some of the just more, I don't know if it's depth or versatility. What kind of options does that give you?
Yeah, these are great problems to have where we have a lot of good players that we want to get out there. I just felt like for our continuity in the back end and the level that those guys were playing at, that it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to just take Kobe back out of the lineup because Jenks was a starter before he had gotten hurt, that's a tough decision to make because you don't really want to live like that. You want guys to feel like, hey, I'm playing at a good level and I got banged up and, I don't necessarily need to lose my job, but I thought this was an exception. So Jenks has been awesome with the whole process, and it does give us an opportunity to get him close to the ball as much as possible, where his physicality can show up and his versatility on what he can do. And then as we grow, I think there's you have three safeties on the field that gives you some scheme flexibility as well. And then him playing the dime and nickel position, which is a little bit mirrored. So it's been fun to kind of build some things for him, and it's a good group right now.
Last two things quickly for me here, Mike. Do you guys come out of it pretty good health-wise? It looked like everybody largely got on the plane fairly healthy?
I think so. Yeah, I haven't heard anything this morning from last night, but I think we're okay.
Punt going to be okay?
I'm not sure. I'm assuming he will be. But.
And DK, I mean, he was out. He looked like he was in bad shape, and then he popped right back out there.
I don't know the details of it, but it did seem like it was something that seemed serious initially, but it was maybe more of a nerve thing or whatever. Where without getting, I don't know all the stuff, but it just seemed like it was more serious initially. But I'm glad he's okay. We'll see. Again, I haven't got an update on him, so I could be dead wrong right now. So we'll see.
And then what about tangling with the team you just saw a week ago in Arizona?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, both teams are going to need to make adjustments, and a lot of things change from kind of one just them being at Lumen to us going to their place. Cadences and things like that are going to be different, and operation wise, you can do things at home that you can't necessarily do on the road. So that changes as well, and I'm sure they're going to dissect how we played them and have counters off of it, and we got to do a good job of kind of dissecting where we needed to improve and how we want to kind of evolve our plan on both sides of the ball. So it doesn't happen often where it's this close. We had one in Baltimore against Cincinnati. It was a little different circumstance because we had to kind of throw the kitchen sink at them to try to win the game to get to the playoff. But I think there's a balance. You can definitely overthink it and go crazy and go away from stuff you do well, or you can. Probably somewhere in the middle is where you.
Or you can just be a computer and keep spitting out the right calls. Shove it down AD's face.
Yeah, sorry, AD. Sorry.
I'm enjoying the little trip inside your mind. This is fun.
No, he's a good. He's a fun guy. He's an awesome guy to work with. We just we balance each other out.
And a great accent too, right? That accent just everywhere.
Yeah, elite. It's an elite accent.
Good. Well, it's December. Teams playing meaningful football. You're in first place. It's a good place to be. Fun conversations about this team. Fun team to watch. Crazy game yesterday, and we'll look forward to next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. There you go. There goes Coach Macdonald. They've won 3 straight.